Hi guys, Kim here. So I woke to a thought yesterday morning. It started with following the white rabbit, which then led me to the idea of being trapped in time by Saturn, as Saturn is Father Time, and then the concept that the last epoch was ruled by Jupiter, then Saturn overthrew him, and maybe the next epoch would be ruled by Uranus. So according to Greek mythology, Uranus is the great-grandfather of Aries, Mars, and the grandfather of Zeus, Jupiter, and the father of Kronos, Saturn. So I'm thinking, hang on a second, how about we're working our way outwards on the solar system, having gone through from the distant past by being ruled by Mars and then Jupiter and then Saturn. And Uranus could also be the sixth sun on that basis, if we were to work on the principle that there had been 5 suns previously and each of those had become rulers of their particular epoch. Kind of have to backtrack my thinking here so I can explain where my thinking's coming from. But basically, the being from Atlantis years ago told me that each of us as individuals were working towards eventually becoming a sun, and that each of us in time would become a sun in charge of our own solar systems, and that this would be attainable through us expanding our essence or our inner light until such time that we could reflect and transmute a whole load of energy. So, if we take it that each of the planets in our solar systems were actually once personalities, then the next personality, so to speak, to run this realm would be Uranus. Now, you know me, I never miss an opportunity to be a wordsmith, so are we about to disappear up our own arses or exit out of them? In the iPad 2 Goat movie, they've got a Jesus figure who exits out of the throat. I wonder what he's depicting. Anyway, I digress. So I ask the question, what exactly would we be heading into this point in time if we're being catapulted into the reality ruled by Uranus? So Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, which could be why we're entering the age of Aquarius, and heading into an age of instigation, change and reform, ingenuity, innovation, individual freedom. Sounds really nice. I always felt that there's something about the oligarchy and the meme of the Great Reset making it sound ominous and scary, but that they are there to lead us astray. So they tell us their stories, which are made up, so we can dread the future rather than living in the now and enjoying ourselves. But we can't do that now because we're currently dreading the future and are worried about what's going to happen, not in the now, but in some unknown future that we haven't created yet. Okay, I'm going to jump back to following the white rabbit and work out the I'm late for a very important date. So as a kid, I clearly remember there being a projection of how the future might look at. It was all like white kitchens and shows on TV like Tomorrow's World or The Jetsons or Star Trek or Doctor Who. Then later on we had like things like the X-Files depicting aliens outside coming from the future. But lately, I can honestly say that the only time that they present us with visions of the future, it's either some really messed up dystopian reality like Hunger Games, or a zombie apocalypse or something, or some plague-ridden reality where everybody's living in an individual prison. The other thing that's weird was, as a child, you could project your imagination forward 100 years or more. I mean, I can clearly remember back in the 80s getting my driving license in the UK, and it's at the expiry date of 2011, and that blew my mind. I was like, whoa, that's a long time away. From 1981 or whatever, I got my driving license 31 years later. But now, you rarely get that. You only get a projection of maybe 2030, perhaps at the outer reaches of 2040? I wonder and speculate that they're trying to vision a future at all. I mean, seriously, how many of you really think it's possible for us to have a future worth living in the current projection of the mainstream? On the other hand, we've got this meme hanging around that something's about to shift in our reality, created by a number of different lines and thoughts and teachings converging into some kind of single movement where speculatively we'll be catapulted through into some sort of nirvana. From that point, we'll live happily ever after. Does that sound like a fairy story? Well, for me personally, I'm very much aligned with the teachings of the Aztecs and the Mayans, whereby they predicted that this reality would come to an end and a new one would begin, and that this reality had become so corrupt that the ethics would win over power and blast the bad guys back into oblivion. But in order for the ethics to overtake, wouldn't that require the individuals in this reality to become ethical? So once again, it comes back to us guys, the individuals behaving and reflecting on the external world, and then the changes coming from within. So if I was to describe the current reality as two walls closing in on us, and on our right we've got the future, and on our left we've got the past, and in the middle we've got the now, I can honestly say that I seem to have let go of the future. I used to plan things, I used to put ideas in place that I thought would be good for me, to change my reality into something better than what I was currently living in. But to some degree, crisis of the last 2 years has put a kibosh on all that, and it taught me that the best laid plans of mice and men can be screwed up by external authorities, and that letting go of planning my life was much less stressful. Instead, I wait for the reality to catch up with my expectations, just putting a concept out there of, ooh, that might be fun, and imagining it occurring and playing with the idea and see if it feels good, and then wait for that example that I've imagined to come to pass. I had an example of this a couple of days ago, where about 6 months ago a friend and I went to the mainland. I've only been there twice in 6 months, and while I was there I saw a bed cover in a shop that had a for sale sign on it, and it was $60. I took it to the counter to buy it, but it was $280 when I got it to the counter. So I said, no, that's too much, I'm not buying it. So then the second time I went to the big shops, was a couple of days ago, found another bed cover, and I liked it, similar to the other one. It was made out of linen, and it was on sale. It was originally $311, but it was reduced to $160. So I asked the woman if there's any more sale to come off this, and she said no, $160 was the price. So I told a friend that I wanted to pay $50 and that I'd wait until that reality caught up with me. But I did like the quality of the item. And then at the checkout, the woman asked me if I was a member, and I told her I was. And she said that further discounts were available for members. So my friend ran off to get the cover that was $160. Handed it over the counter, and the woman said it was $50. So I bought it. So after leaving the shop, my friend was amazed, and she asked, how do you do that? I go, you got something worth $311 for $50 just by going along with it. And I told her that my friends and I had discovered this secret on our path, whereby we find something of quality that we like, we decide on a price that we're willing to pay for it, and then we let it go. And we wait for universal energy to catch up with the expectation. Might never happen, which is fine. Or it might, but we just don't move the goalposts of what our expectation was. So I'm going back to converging time now. I talked about before in previous podcasts as to the difference of when you're in time and when you're out of it. There's a flow present when you're out of time that simply just isn't there when you're in time. So you're out of time. So when you're in time, you're like the white rabbit proclaiming, I'm late, because you're stressed and you're trying to cram too much into your life, and it's all cumbersome or a chore, rather than just enjoying the experience, whatever it is, And then if you take the chore and find a way to make it fun, rather than it being a chore, then you'll move out of being in time. So lately, I've been going through from one to the next in the flow, still helping people to come across in the path, but by the same token, choosing my chores as they become across my path, rather than the chores choosing me. Great many of my friends are also now in this alignment with this flow, so no one seems to be half as stressed as they were, and it's like they've tweaked their lives in such a way that they've made their lives work for them, rather than them working for their lives. So, like I said, to the left we've got the past, which is no longer relevant, rarely thought about. Now I'm talking here from a personal perspective, and I know some of you probably think I'm talking out of BS here, but I can assure you that when you get to the age of 60, you rarely do anything you regret, or regret anything that you've done. I was chatting to one of the members on the Telegram group that I'm in, Lumis Purple Petunia. I asked her for permission before repeating this, by the way, but she said, I'm happy to be just me on my journey. No more guilt, no more shame, no more trying to wake people up for the moment. I'm having the most exciting and wonderful time, finally discovering who I am and what I want in my life, etc. It's the best time of my life and the most free and unencumbered I've ever been. Less is more for me. To which I responded, the further down I get the path at the moment, the less I want to make decisions or project into making any decisions about the future, but instead let the past flow away and the future flow away. So completely letting go of the idea of I'll be happy when. Just focusing on the now moment. No decisions need to be made. I've got no fear of the future, and now for sure, if I was meant to be moving forward, then the universe would lay a path out for me to shift onto, rather than me projecting that forward. So the future does not exist yet. The past on our left has been dealt with and really doesn't have much effect on us anymore. If only we could zone into this reality of living out of time, we might be able to dismiss Father Time as in Saturn's trap. Instead, just living in the flow from moment to moment, not really worrying about anything, and knowing that the more we focus on the now, the more fulfilling our lives become. I know Eckhart Tolle's been trying to tell us this for years, but somehow I didn't seem to get it till quite recently. And then I've also got a fixation on that Bill Hicks and George Callan video that I linked the other day. I can't stop watching it, something about it. So Estelle and I have been having a discussion in the comments, and she was mentioning the headless Egyptian statues towards the end could be representative of the idea that neither the Anunnaki nor anyone else is in charge of this realm anymore. And then the video ends with the solar eclipse. There it is again, the solar eclipse that seems to be a recurring meme in music and other videos to signify change. Thanks for listening. Ta-ta for now.